Hello, I am Bjorn, your movie archaeologist, and welcome to the Temple of Movie Reviews. Today we found a rare artifact. We have found the desecrated corpse of the latest MCU project, which is of course Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and I'm going to review it now. I'm dropping the pretense. So yeah, I saw this movie just a little bit ago, and this video is probably going to come out pretty late from when I actually saw it. So I'm going to give my kind of off-the-cuff thoughts on the film. I like it, but not a lot. It's kind of a mid-movie. It almost really works, but there's just a few things that just really don't work. And there's some really cool set pieces, and then there's some really, really lame set pieces. And then there's another really, really cool set piece, and then there's just another kind of lame thing in Deus Ex Machinas and stuff. We won't get into spoilers until later in the review, so I'll start with my sort of vague thoughts on the movie. I would recommend MCU fans. You'll probably enjoy at least most of this. And the things that don't work in it, I'll get into in my spoiler review. So you can either agree or disagree with me on that. But what I thought worked here, Ant-Man, likable. The Wasp, though she's barely in this movie, is likable. Cassie, Ant-Man's daughter, who's all over the trailer, so I don't think it's much of a spoiler to say she's in this. 50-50 for me. She worked about half the time, the other half it didn't. She kind of had the beginnings of an emotional bond with her father in an arc. And you're like, oh, although it's stupid, they're disagreeing with each other and she's mad at him for leaving her. And then like, you hit this sort of threshold about halfway through the movie and then they just sort of drop that whole subplot and it goes nowhere. So I don't know how I feel about that. So that stuff didn't work for me, but their emotional connection worked and it could have paid off into something really good, but I'm just going to hold off until the spoiler section. The big win in this movie is obviously Jonathan Majors as Kang. He absolutely certifiably kills it. Literally not a bad speck of screen time with him. He literally kills it. Like, my man kills it. It's actually kind of a shame he wasn't in this movie even more. That's not to say he wasn't in it a lot. He's in it a ton. But I could have used even more of him. I'm looking forward to Kang Dynasty now, as long as this. Maybe we get a different writer, because, I mean, about half this movie was really cool. The stuff with Kang, clearly written by the Marvel higher-ups and maybe the writer for this. I don't know who actually wrote this movie, but I can kind of get the vibe that it was written by the same person as who wrote the last one, Ant-Man and the Wasp, because there's chunks of this movie that really feel right out of Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I've made my opinions on that movie clear in one of my last video, actually, so I could say this is much, much better than that. This actually has a plot and characters and things happen in it, and there's an actual villain. The visuals are fucking amazing in this. Basically, there's not a bad looking set design or creature or costume. I love all the weird little like people in the quantum realm. They all look very zany. A couple of them are really standouts. They have a lot of good funny scenes. Specifically, there's a telepathic guy and a goo guy, a guy made of goo. I thought their jokes were fairly funny. I like the guy with the big cylinder for a head. All these sort of 60s, 70s comic book designs, I really liked all of them. I think it's in the trailer. Mild spoilers in case it's not in the trailer, but MODOK is in this movie and he fell flat for me. I did not really vibe with what they did with him. I feel like a lot of the comic book fans are going to have the same opinion I do on MODOK. I think he's going to be very controversial coming out of this movie. A lot of the things he does doesn't work. A lot of what they do with him doesn't work, and then they do that. Okay, we're going to get into spoilers. So there it is, spoilers. Go see the movie if you care, and if you don't care, allow me, a true movie archaeologist, to determine the truth behind this movie by studying the artifacts. That makes no fucking sense. Okay, so, spoilers. MODOK dies at the end of this, and I fucking didn't care for that. I didn't like the way he dies. I don't like what they did with him. Literally, like, his entire arc comes down to a girl saying, hey, you're kind of a dick. And he goes, you know, I am a dick. I'm not going to be a dick anymore. And then he gets blasted by the same beam we see a bunch of our main characters get blasted by, and somehow he's dead, but not before he makes a bunch of jokes. And I don't even hate the way he looks. I'm sure a lot of people are going to bitch about how he looks. And I actually like the twist that he's the Wasp the Yellow Jacket. I thought that twist was pretty good. I kind of guessed at that before the movie came out, but even still, it was a good idea. and then they just make him into a goofball. And I get he's MODOK, right? He's kind of a goofball, but it does not work in this movie. It feels completely tonally detached from everything else going on. He just felt wildly out of place. And basically every time he was on screen, I mean, I laughed at some of his jokes. Like, I kind of laughed at the dick bit, but it doesn't work. And he's not actually all that menacing, given that he's supposed to be the machine designed only for killing. It doesn't work. Honestly, I don't like anything they really did with MODOK, except for his design, which I liked, and the bit that he was actually Yellow Jacket. He just feels radically out of place, and I've said that a lot, but it actually knocked this movie a whole grade down for me. Like, he felt like he was in a different movie. It was just like, there's a bunch of little things like that, right? Little bits, like the ant army coming in at the end. Like, I find the idea of super intelligent ants, it's too stupid. You cross into the territory of, I'm all for goofy comic book shit. You know me, I'm the goofy comic book shit guy. Like, my nerd cred is not in question here. But the army of super ants that have created their own little miniature society, and the last 5 minutes of the movie being revealed out of nowhere just so they can come in and save our main characters is fucking dumb, and it doesn't work, I don't think. I mean, even me saying that, like, it's kind of funny, like, in a less serious movie. Like, if this movie was like an actual comedy, like the last one was trying to be, maybe that idea would work. But this is a fairly serious movie with a fairly serious scope and scale. And that sort of shit just doesn't work, and it totally clashes, and it doesn't. Someone like James Gunn can take an idea like that and actually flesh it out into being interesting, and this just ain't it. Okay, so let's talk about Kang here for a little bit. I don't really have much to say because he kind of speaks for himself. He was pretty fucking cool. A little disappointed they killed this variant, but I understand there's going to be a lot more of them. I think he should have killed Ant-Man. They set it up perfectly. It would have been a self-sacrifice for his daughter. It would have pulled the whole arc together. They're just too afraid. I know these corporate types. They're too afraid to kill a character like Ant-Man. But if you want your audience to be afraid of someone like Kang the Conqueror, you've got to give them a reason to be afraid. And this movie almost does it. It's fucking close. But every time he kills like one side character, and then he gets his ass handed to him by a bunch of ants, and it immediately lowers any sort of fear we had towards this guy, right? But if he had come back at the end and fucking beat Ant-Man to death like he almost does in this movie, I think it would have been very effective. It would have had about the same effect as Thanos killing Gamora or killing Vision had. Like, it's fucking brutal. The way he did it would be very effective. And then when he dies and we get the reveal that there are thousands of Kangs, holy shit. Like he beat Ant-Man to death with his bare hands with no tech. And there's thousands of this guy and they're all coming to Earth. Like, holy shit. How in the flying fuck are the Avengers going to handle this, right? And then you've got it, right? And it'd be perfect because, like, you could have even the emotional beat where Cassie is waiting for Ant-Man to come out of the portal, and he doesn't come, and he doesn't come, and he doesn't come, and then it shuts. Or maybe he kills Kang or breaks it. When Kang smashes his face into it, it kills him, but it shuts down the portal. And of course we could bring Ant-Man back if they really have some grand plan for him, which I just fucking doubt. I don't really see him playing much of a role going forward besides getting a cameo, turning big for a second, and getting a hit in. Something his daughter can do now. We've set her up. Maybe she wants revenge on Kang. This would be a really good arc. Something like Peter Quill, maybe execute a little better. His grudge against Thanos. There's so many different avenues for this that you could take. And they seem to want to set up Young Avengers and the Young Avengers taking over the mantles of the heroes. And what better way to do it than something with like a revenge arc? I think they did this fairly effectively in the last Black Panther movie with Namor and Shuri's fight at the end. It actually worked for me, and I didn't think it would. So I think they should have killed Ant-Man. I really do. And I was sort of expecting it going in, which was my fault. I went in with the expectations that Kang was going to get a body count in this movie, and I was wrong. No one dies. All of our main characters are okay. In fact, there's no consequences for them at all. Maybe I was hoping at least that they would get trapped in the quantum realm. There'd be some sort of stakes. But no, this movie sort of ends afraid to make a risk. And I thought they'd learn this lesson, right? Like No Way Home and Wakanda Forever both have very high stakes. People die in those movies, and there's emotional impacts to the endings. Guardians 2 did this. I think they need to figure out that it isn't a bad thing to kill your characters, and your audience won't be repulsed by it. It actually engages them, and they just refuse to learn this whole lesson. You know, it's like the one lesson they won't learn. Like that guy in SpongeBob keeps getting the shit kicked out of him, and then he never learns his lesson. You know, how many times we got to teach you this lesson, old man?
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
Joking aside, I think that was the one thing I could have stood with. There's some great set pieces, like the probability set piece with the various actions Ant-Man could theoretically take inside of this little like quantum time device. Really cool set piece. I like that. The final fight was pretty cool. I loved it when Kang went out and started just absolutely wrecking ass until he got beat up by a bunch of little ants. So this movie teeters back and forth. It's like on the verge of something really cool, but the writing and some of the decisions made behind the scenes just hold it back. The visuals are really cool. A lot of the movie is just sort of meandering, and Wasp has nothing to do. Same with Michael Douglas's character, Hank Pym. They have nothing to do in this movie, literally nothing. I didn't talk about her, but Michelle Pfeiffer's character, the original Van Dyne. Oh my God, they said her name. God, I had to have said her name like 1,000 times. Janet Van Dyne? Yes, Janet. Or, I don't know, something with a J. Sue me. I'm sorry. But she was cool. She got a lot to do in this movie, and she worked. Her little backstory scenes with Kang were very effective, and the bit where she touches Kang's arm and sees all the atrocities he's committed is really effective at setting him up as a villain. It's a shame he doesn't really carry the impact to back that up later in the film. So that's it. That's an unnecessarily long archaeological study of the new Ant-Man movie. I'm going to go continue to explore this temple, and maybe we'll find some more artifacts in here, and we'll be able to review those artifacts. So this is a mess. All right, like and subscribe. I'm out of here.